Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different.
Yeah, this one's got a unique feel.
Usually, we're tackling a stack of articles on AI or a new scientific study, maybe a big historical biography. But today
Is different.
today we are stepping into a kind of time machine. We're going back to a very specific night, February 22, 1965.
It's good to be here. And you're right, the atmosphere for this one is, well, it's specific. It's not just about the information, it's about the setting.
Totally. We are in a lab. We are in a university lecture hall.
We're in a living room
Yeah.
in upstate New York,
Oh,
and it's cold.
exactly. I want everyone listening to just close their eyes for a second. Unless you're driving, please don't do that. And picture this. It is bitterly cold outside. The wind is howling.
A literal dark and stormy night.
It really was.
Yeah.
And inside this modest apartment, you have this couple, Jane Roberts and Rob Butts. And the vibe inside, it's
Yeah.
almost as stormy as the weather outside.
Oh, it was a rough start to the evening. And frankly, if you look at the transcript, it is a miracle the session happened at all.
Before we get into why it was so rough, and trust me, it's relatable, we should probably handle a bit of housekeeping.
Right.
We're aiming for a relaxed, maybe a little chilling, but definitely a humorous kind of fireside chat today.
Imagine we're all sitting in that apartment while the wind howls outside, just, watching this whole strange phenomenon unfold.
Perfect. And as always, we have to state this explicitly.
Yep. This podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We are here to learn, to explore, and to question.
Precisely. Now, let's get the source material right so everyone can follow along if they want.
What?
We are looking exclusively at session 134. This is from the early sessions, book 3 of the Seth Material.
And the date of record, as you said, is February 22, 1965.
And we absolutely want to give full credit to the publisher, the New Awareness Network.
These early sessions are just fascinating because you're really seeing the whole thing develop. Jane's ability, the relationship between all the personalities.
It's raw.
It's so raw. It's unpolished in the best possible way. This is way before the big best-selling books came out. This is the foundation.
So let's set that scene again. Jane, who is the medium here, is known as Ruburt in the sessions. That's the name Seth uses for her.
Right. Her entity name.
And on this particular night, Ruburt was just done. She was upset. She was pacing. She did not want to hold a session.
She was having what we would probably call a mood, a serious mood.
A mood indeed. And honestly, the only reason the session even happened, and this is the part that always makes me chuckle.
I know where you're going with this.
It's because Rob, or Joseph, as Seth calls him, was feeling too lazy to go out dancing.
It just grounds the whole experience, doesn't it? I mean, we're about to dive into some of the most profound insights on the nature of reality, the physics of emotion.
All of it.
And it almost didn't happen because Rob didn't want to put his coat on and brave the cold.
It just reminds you that these incredible metaphysical events were happening to real people.
With very mundane problems.
Bad weather, laziness, little marital spats, life.
And that mundane setting is actually so crucial to the message. I mean, Seth, the entity speaking through Jane, he isn't appearing on a mountaintop somewhere.
No.
He's appearing in a living room, interrupting an argument about whether to go out or stay in. It tells you that this kind of wisdom isn't separate from our daily lives.
So 9:00 p.m. rolls around. Jane is still fuming, probably smoking a cigarette, pacing the rug.
Annoyed. So annoyed that Rob won't go out, annoyed she has to do this work.
But then, at 9:02 p.m., she sits down, her eyes close, and when she opens her mouth, it's not Jane speaking anymore, it's Seth.
And Seth does not waste any time. He goes right for the throat, metaphorically speaking.
He does. He addresses the elephant in the room immediately. He goes right for Jane's mood.
And you'd expect, a spiritual guide to say something like, peace be with you, or...
Please calm down, or let go of your earthly anger, something like that.
Right. But Seth takes a completely different angle on it.
He does. He actually frames her behavior, her anger, her reluctance, her shouting as something necessary.
He calls them psychic explosions.
Psychic explosions. That is a phenomenal term for a temper tantrum. I'm going to start using that.
You should. I'm not road raging. I'm having a psychic explosion.
Exactly.
But it fits, though. Seth sees it as mechanics, not just bad behavior. He notes that Jane's ability to channel this energy, even the angry energy, is what makes the sessions possible.
He actually says something like the inner discipline, the inner utilization of energy would have been impossible but a few years ago.
Exactly. So he's framing it as progress.
So wait a minute. He's saying that her ability to get angry and, blow off steam is actually linked to her ability to be a medium.
Yeah.
That seems so counterintuitive. We usually associate spiritual connection with being all zen and calm.
Right. But it's about energy utilization. Seth points out that Jane Ruburt has these, quote, petty explosions, these bursts of temper.
Which society, and definitely Rob at the time, would see as a negative trait.
Of course. We're all taught to suppress anger, be polite, keep calm and carry on.
Especially for a woman in 1965. The expectation was to be demure, quiet, supportive.
Not pacing the room and yelling because her husband won't go dancing.
No. But Seth just flips that entire script. He says these explosions are harmless and they actually serve a balancing tendency.
Think of a pressure cooker.
Okay.
If you weld the valve shut, the whole thing eventually explodes and destroys the kitchen. But if you let the steam out in these little controlled bursts,
The system stays stable.
the system is stable. That makes so much sense physically. If you bottle it up, it finds a way out eventually, and usually in a much, much worse way.
And Seth is very clear that these are surface storms. They clear the air. He says it is his natural reaction to turn aggression, when it rises, outward, while he is almost superstitiously careful that it not be directed at another individual.
And that's a really key distinction.
It is. She's not abusing Rob. She's venting at the situation.
Correct. But here is where it gets really interesting, to me at least. Seth implies that Jane isn't just releasing her own steam.
Okay.
This is where we get into the woo-woo mechanics of relationships.
Let's unpack that, because that changes the whole dynamic of their marriage, doesn't it?
Completely. Seth tells Rob Joseph that Jane is actually acting as a psychic lightning rod for him.
A psychic lightning rod. Okay, explain what that means.
Seth says, and this is a direct quote, "For he takes up also your hidden frustrations and angers, feels them deeply, though consciously he does not know this, and he then, in these small explosions, rather harmlessly dispels pent-up, small but potent emotional bombshells that belong to you both."
Wow. Okay, so Rob is the nice guy, right? The calm one, the disciplined one.
The stoic one.
He's sitting there thinking, I'm fine, I'm just feeling lazy. But underneath all that, he's got these emotional bomb cells.
Right.
And Jane, because she's the more sensitive, intuitive one, she picks them up and explodes for him.
It's a mechanism of shared consciousness. We tend to think of our emotions as, sealed inside our own skulls. Like, this is my anger over here, that is your anger over there.
But this suggests a much more porous reality.
So much more porous. In a close relationship, you aren't just dealing with your own garbage, you're processing the other person's garbage too.
Jane was doing the dirty work of emotional clearing for the whole household.
That's a great way to put it.
It makes you wonder how many arguments in relationships are actually just one person venting the unacknowledged stress of the other person.
I would bet it's a high percentage.
You ever walk into a room and your partner just snaps at you for no reason, but you realize you were actually the one feeling grumpy?
All the time.
Yeah.
It's a form of telepathy, really. Emotional telepathy. Rob suppresses his annoyance about, a bill or his art or the weather.
He pushes it down.
He pushes it down into his subconscious. Jane walks into the room, feels this wave of irritation, assumes it's her own because she can feel it in her body, and she snaps at him.
And the fascinating part is the result of that.
Right. Jane explodes, the energy is discharged,
The air is cleared.
and Rob probably feels better. He has no idea why, but he does.
He gets the catharsis without ever having to lose his cool. It's a very convenient arrangement for him, even if he complains about her moods.
It's like she's the designated driver for their emotional baggage.
That is a perfect analogy,
Yeah.
but it really highlights the cost of being a medium, or just being that sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about channeling wisdom, it's about managing the entire energetic environment. And Seth is telling Rob, don't judge her for this, you should be thanking her for this.
And Seth is very clear that Rob needs to stop fearing these outbursts. He says no one is endeavoring to tamper with his personality.
Meaning, don't try to fix her.
Don't. She isn't broken. She's functioning as a high-capacity energy transducer.
This leads right into the next major theme of the session, which is this kind of battle between order and chaos.
And Rob is order.
And Jane is chaos.
Rob was a very structured guy. He kept meticulous notes. He dated everything. He wanted the sessions to start at 9:00 p.m. sharp every Monday and Wednesday. He was the anchor.
He was, and because he didn't understand the mechanism we just talked about, he would get so annoyed with Jane's irregularity.
He wanted a predictable psychic phenomena service.
He did. He wanted it to run like the trains.
But creativity, and especially channeling, It just doesn't run like a train.
No. And Seth creates this really fascinating tension here because he seems to be siding with the chaos.
He is so explicit about it. He tells Rob that it is Jane's rebellious nature that allows the sessions to exist in the first place.
And then he says that amazing line.
From this mixture, all creativity comes.
That's a quote to stick on your wall. From this mixture, all creativity comes.
To think about what they were actually doing. They were channeling an entity from another dimension. That is an inherently rebellious act.
Totally. It goes against the status quo, against conventional religion, against the scientific materialism of the 1960s.
If Jane were as disciplined and rigid as Rob, she never would have opened that door. She would have been too afraid of breaking the rules.
So her brattiness, if we want to call it that, her refusal to just sit down and be a good girl is actually the fuel for the psychic fire.
Precisely. Seth tells Rob, if you were in Rupert's position, you would be more willingly regular than he. But my dear Joseph, your critical sense would block me much more than his.
Oof, that's a sting. You'd show up on time, but you wouldn't let me in.
It's the difference between the scribe and the oracle, right? The scribe needs the oracle to be messy so the information can come through.
Right.
If Rob were the medium, he would probably stop every sentence to fact-check it or worry if it sounded correct or analyze the grammar.
You would self-edit.
Exactly. And self-editing is the death of channeling. It's the death of any flow state. Jane, because of her rebellious nature, she just didn't care as much about being correct in the moment. She just let it rip.
But Seth points out a paradox here. He says that consciously, Jane complains.
She complains a lot.
I don't want to do this. I'm tired. I'm upset. But subconsciously, she relies on the regularity just as much as Rob does.
It's like she needs the structure to rebel against. You need the walls of the box to think outside the box.
You need the walls to bounce the sound off of. If Rob weren't there setting the schedule, Jane might just drift off and never do the work. So they need each other.
It's the yin and the yang.
That distinction between the conscious complainer and the subconscious believer is really helpful. We all have that, don't we? The part of us that dreads going to the gym.
And the deeper part that knows we absolutely need it.
Yeah. And in this case, the gym is a high-level trance state where you invite a multidimensional personality to speak through your vocal cords.
Just a typical Monday night workout.
Right.
But this leads us into the real meat of the session. We've established the personalities, the order, and the chaos. Now Seth takes him into the classroom. He starts talking about what emotions actually are.
And this is where the deep dive really lives up to its name.
This section, it blew my mind. Because usually when we talk about emotions, we talk about psychology. We talk about feelings, trauma, happiness, sadness.
They're abstract concepts.
They are. But Seth talks about them like they're physics.
He defines them quite literally. He says, emotions are indeed motion and not static.
Emotions are motion.
It sounds so simple, but the implications are just staggering. He goes on to say, and this is the part that I found genuinely chilling, in a good way.
I think I know the line.
You know by now that emotions even change the physical cells, sweeping through them as wind through branches.
Wind through branches. I love that imagery so much. It's not that the emotion is just a chemical signal in your brain. It's a force that physically alters the cellular structure of your body.
And he expands on that. He says emotions leave imprints in many realities.
Well, it's just one.
They leave imprints in physical reality, yes, but also in dream reality. And then he drops this phrase, electrical reality, in terms of coded systems.
Okay, let's stop right there. Electrical reality. Coded systems. Sounds like he's describing computer code.
Or circuit board.
He is describing the universe as an information system, an energetic system. When you feel a strong emotion, anger, joy, fear, you aren't just having a private experience inside your head.
You're generating a signal.
You're generating electricity. Seth says, emotions also are electrically coded and also have an independent electrical reality.
So my anger isn't just inside me. It has an independent reality. It exists as a thing out there in the universe.
Yes. And it has vitality. This is the heavy part. Seth says emotions represent the uncamouflaged vitality of the universe as it passes through the inner self.
Okay, uncamouflaged vitality. Can we break that down?
Well, think about what camouflage means in the Seth material. Seth often refers to physical matter, chairs, tables, our bodies, as camouflage.
It's the mask.
It's the mask that energy wears so we can interact with it in 3D space. It's stable, it's solid.
So physical reality is the costume energy wears.
Right. But emotion, according to Seth, is closer to the naked truth. It is only slightly tinged. When you feel that intense love or that intense rage, you are closer to the raw, burning core of the universe than you are when you are just touching a table.
That is, wow, that's intense. It makes emotion feel almost sacred in a way,
Even the bad ones.
especially the bad ones.
Especially the strong ones. We tend to judge emotions. Peace is good, anger is bad. Seth seems to be saying vitality is the point. The universe is dynamic. It moves. If you are feeling deeply, you are alive. You are channeling the universe.
So the raw energy of the universe, the stuff that makes stars burn and atoms spin, it passes through us.
Yes.
And as it passes through us, we color it, we give it a flavor, and that flavor is what they call an emotion.
Exactly. It's raw power, filtered through the lens of your personality. And because it is raw power, it needs to move. It needs to flow.
Back to the wind through branches analogy.
Right. The wind blows, the branches bend, the wind passes, the branches return. That is a healthy system.
But we don't do that, do we? We hold on. We hold on to things.
We certainly do. And Seth identifies the ego as the culprit here. He says the ego often rationalizes and holds emotions. It imprisons them.
We hold a grudge. We replay an argument in the shower 3 days later. We worry about things that haven't even happened.
And when we do that, we are trapping that uncamouflaged vitality. We're taking a force of nature like the wind and trying to bottle it up inside our physical cells. And what happens when you trap high-voltage energy in a system that isn't designed to hold it?
Things break.
Things break, the cells change, the aches and pains manifest. Seth is basically outlining a psychosomatic theory of disease in 1965 that, medicine is only really catching up to now.
The idea that stress, which is just held emotion, causes real physical damage.
It's like how electronics heat up if there's too much resistance. The current can't flow, you get heat, you get inflammation.
That's a perfect comparison.
Yeah.
Seth says the motion is the thing. The problem isn't the emotion itself, it's the stopping of the emotion.
It's the resistance.
If you let the anger sweep through you like a storm and then let it pass, you're fine. Your cells can handle it. But if you say, oh, I shouldn't be angry, and you clamp down on it,
That's when the damage starts.
So the advice here isn't don't feel negative emotions. Seth is not saying good vibes only.
Not even close. Remember, he started the session by praising Jane's psychic explosions. He wants the flow. If you're angry, be angry. Let the wind blow, but then let it pass.
Yes.
Don't build a dam.
This connects directly to the next thing he talks about in the session, which is dreams and aggression.
Yes, because apparently Rob had been having some pretty violent dreams.
He had. Rob was keeping a dream journal, which, by the way, is practice Seth highly recommends for everybody.
It is?
And Rob had recorded these dreams where he was being aggressive, fighting, releasing anger. And in the 1960s, a lot of people might have seen that as a bad sign.
Oh, definitely. Oh, you have repressed violence. You're a dangerous person.
Right. You need to see a psychiatrist. You've got unresolved issues.
But Seth says this is excellent.
He validates the nightmare.
He validates the function of the nightmare. He explains the mechanism. He says, in the dreams, aggressive tendencies are indeed released and worked out in an actual manner, as satisfying to the subconscious as if they were worked out within the physical field.
So if I punch someone in my dream, my subconscious counts that as a win.
Basically, yes. And it goes even further. Seth mentions muscular action. Even when you're asleep, your body goes through the motions in a micro way. This physical outlet saves the body from having to manifest that aggression as illness or pain in waking life.
It's a safety valve.
It is. But Rob was afraid of it. And this leads to a really touching bit of psychoanalysis that Seth does about Rob's childhood.
Yeah, this part made Rob feel so human to me. We often think of him as the stoic note-taker, but here we really see his vulnerability.
We do.
Seth explains why Rob is so obsessed with order and why he fears these strong emotions so much.
It's his mother. Seth says Rob fears moods because they remind him of the constant emotional gyrations of his mother. As a child, he felt insecure. He feared being swept away by the raw emotions of his parents.
That is such a common childhood trauma, walking on eggshells, never knowing if today is going to be a good day or a screaming day.
It creates a hypervigilance. And so Rob built a personality structure based on control, regularity, discipline. He walled himself off to be safe.
And then, ironically, he marries Jane, who is spontaneous, fiery, and prone to psychic explosions.
Talk about marrying your nightmare.
Or your cure.
Seth would argue it's the cure. He says, you two temperamentally balance each other well.
They do.
Jane needs to be less meek. And Seth claims she is actually too meek, despite the explosions, which is hilarious. And Rob needs to stop fearing the storm.
It's a beautiful dynamic, the storm and the shelter. but they have to learn how to live together.
It's basically marriage counseling from a disembodied entity. Joseph, stop fearing the anger. Ruburt, keep exploding, but, maybe do it efficiently.
And speaking of storms and aggression, we have to talk about the incident that happens right in the middle of this profound discussion.
Oh, we cannot skip this.
This part feels like it was written for a sitcom.
The cat.
The cat. We have to talk about Willie the cat.
It's just too good. So, listeners, picture this again. Jane is in a deep trance. She's pacing, or maybe sitting, speaking with that distinct, deeper voice of Seth.
The room is charged with this electrical reality we just talked about.
And in the room with them is their cat, Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anyone who has a cat knows they do not respect boundaries.
Our podcasts.
Or apparently interdimensional channeling sessions.
Yeah.
Willie keeps jumping on Jane's lap.
Which normally would be cute, but Jane is away. She's channeling. Rob is trying to take notes, manage the recording. He doesn't want the cat disrupting the connection. He's getting nervous.
So Rob tries to be helpful. He reaches out to grab Willie's tail and pull him off Jane's lap. But he's in a chair. It's an awkward angle.
Mm-hmm.
He slips.
He loses his balance and yanks the cat backward. And cats, being cats.
Their reflexes engage. The claws come out.
And Willie digs his claws right into Jane's leg through her dress. And this isn't a little scratch. We find out later he actually drew blood. It was a serious gouge.
And the reaction is the really chilling part of the story for me.
Yeah.
Jane's eyes snap open.
She comes back.
She cries out. For just a split second, she is Jane. She's in pain. She's confused. She looks dazed.
And
then she closes her eyes. She smiles. And she goes right back into the trance. Boom. Seth is back.
that is wild.
It just demonstrates the level of dissociation Jean was achieving. She was able to compartmentalize physical pain instantly. In fact, after the session ended, she had no memory of the pain. She saw the blood and the scratch later and was like, what happened?
It also adds this layer of just absurdity to the whole thing. Here is Seth giving this masterclass on the electrical reality of emotions and the nature of the universe.
While the physical vessel he is using is being mauled by a house cat.
It perfectly illustrates Seth's point about the simultaneous existence of different realities.
It really does. In the physical reality, there is a cat scratch. In the trance reality, there is only the message. They just coexist.
And Seth, to his credit, just kind of ignores it.
He acknowledges the interruption briefly in the notes later, but during the actual speech, he just keeps rolling. He's a professional. He probably found it amusing.
Truly. But I want to go back to that smile. Why did she smile?
I think that was Seth. The scream was Jane. The smile was Seth. It was like a reassurance to Rob. I'm still here. I'm driving the car. Don't worry about the scratch on the fender.
It implies that pain is, to some extent, a matter of focus. If your consciousness is not focused on the nerve endings, do you even feel the pain in the same way?
Hypnosis demonstrates that all the time. People getting dental work done under hypnosis without any anesthesia.
Right.
Jane was in a profound state of self-hypnosis. This wasn't play acting. You don't fake not feeling cat claws digging into your thigh.
No, you do not. I have a cat. That hurts. And Willie wasn't a small cat either.
It certainly does. So we've got the emotions, we've got the dreams, we've got the cat attack. But there is one more specific reveal in this session that I think is so cool.
The painting.
The painting, yes. Rob was an artist, a commercial artist, but also a fine art painter. And just before this session, he had finished an oil painting of two male heads.
And he didn't really know where the idea came from, did he?
No. Artists often talk about the muse or ideas just popping into their head. He painted this man blonde, heavy-set, massive build, blue eyes, square jaw.
And Jane really liked this specific face. She felt drawn to it.
She did. And in this session, Seth just drops this little bombshell on them. He says to Rob, "You did indeed paint an excellent likeness of me, as I was, and as my entity is."
Goosebumps.
It suggests that while Jane is translating Seth into words, Rob is translating Seth into images. They were both channeling, just using different mediums.
It goes right back to that idea of the shared consciousness again. They're a team. It's not just Jane doing all the work. Rob is pulling the visual data while Jane pulls the audio data.
And look at the description Seth gives. Massive build, nose somewhat prominent, jaw square. This is not some wispy, angelic, translucent spirit guide. Seth is describing a brawler.
A heavyweight.
A heavyweight.
Yeah.
Which matches his personality. Seth is forceful. He is energetic. He has weight to his words. It makes sense that his physical representation would have mass.
And it reinforces the validity of the experience for them. It's a confirmation loop. Rob paints a face he's never seen. Seth says, hey, that's me.
It anchors the woo-woo stuff into physical, tangible proof. at least for them.
It also validates Rob's contribution. I think he often felt like the secretary in these sessions, just taking notes. But here Seth is saying, no, you see me too. You just see me with paint.
Exactly. It levels the playing field.
So we're coming to the end of the session. The storm is still raging outside. The cat has calmed down, presumably.
Let's hope so.
And Seth wraps up with what has to be one of the most charming sign-offs in the history of channeled literature.
I love this quote. He tells them not to fall into the winter doldrums. And then he says,
"For I am a jolly snowman, and I will not melt in the springtime."
I am a jolly snowman.
Yeah.
It's just so playful. It completely breaks the stereotype of the somber ancient spirit guide.
Seth is funny. He's acknowledging the weather, he's acknowledging the mood, and he's telling them to cheer up.
And it's a metaphor for endurance, isn't it? Winter comes, winter goes.
Yeah.
The form might change, the snow melts, but the essence remains.
And he's basically saying, don't get depressed because it's February in New York and the weather sucks.
Seasonal affective disorder is real, and Seth was treating it back in 1965.
He was, and he leaves them with some advice about creativity that I think is just essential for anyone listening today.
What's that?
He says, creative work does not grow in even ways, but in seeming sudden bursts of activities and in seeming wastefulness, which is not waste at all.
Seeming wastefulness. That hits home.
It's such a critical reminder for anyone doing anything creative or really just living life. We beat ourselves up for the downtime. We think if we aren't producing, we're wasting time.
And Seth is saying that wastefulness is just the winter before the spring. It's part of the cycle. You need the dormant period to have the growth spurts.
It's the burst and rest cycle. We're biological organisms, not machines. We are not designed for linear, constant output.
We pulse. The heart beats and rests. The lungs inhale and exhale. Creativity explodes, and then it lies fallow.
Exactly. If you're in a fallow period right now, if you feel like you're wasting time, maybe you're just gathering the energy for the next burst.
That is extremely validating, especially in our hustle culture, where if you aren't optimizing every second, you're failing.
Seth would say hustle culture is a great way to block your natural energy flow. You need the seeming wastefulness. You need the laziness.
Remember, Rob was too lazy to go out that night, and because of that laziness, we got this entire session.
Laziness leads to enlightenment. You heard it here first.
We can print that on a t-shirt.
So what does this all mean for us? You know, we aren't channeling entities in a blizzard in 1965, but we are all dealing with anger, with regularity versus chaos, with dreams we don't understand.
I think the biggest takeaway is the physics of it all. To stop treating your emotions as these abstract, shameful things you need to hide.
Treat them like weather.
Treat them like weather. If a storm comes, let it rain. Let the wind blow through the branches. Because if you try to stop the wind, you're going to break the tree.
And remember that your emotions are broadcasting. You're a radio tower. What you're feeling is affecting the reality around you, literally, electrically.
And maybe, just maybe, lighten up a little.
Be a jolly snowman.
Exactly. Don't melt when things get heated.
If you want to really understand the depth of this material, you have to read it for yourself.
Yeah.
We are just scratching the surface, giving you the highlights, but the texture of the conversation is something else entirely.
Absolutely. This was session 134. It's in the early sessions. Book 3. You can find these books and a real treasure trove of other materials at the New Awareness Network.
Their website is sethcenter.com/early sessions. Go buy the books. Support the preservation of this material. It is a rabbit hole worth going down.
It certainly is.
Okay, so I want to leave you with one final thought today. We talked about Seth's idea that emotions are electrically coded and that they exist in an electrical reality.
Right.
If that is literally true, if your emotions are actual electricity broadcasting out from you right now, what kind of signal have you been transmitting into the universe today?
And more importantly,
What realities is that signal currently building for you tomorrow?
that's the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
Stay curious.